Welcome into another episode of the Laser Bros podcast. We are your hosts, Logan and Luke Lazarchik. April 3rd, 2024, Wednesday. A lot going on in sports over the weekend. We have March Madness breakdown of the Sweet 16 and Elite 8, talking more about narratives from what came out of those games. And then huge news in the NFL today with Stefon Diggs being traded to the Houston Texans. We'll give our breakdown of that situation and how both teams are affected by that move. Luke, I know you didn't have class today, but what have you been up to so far today?
No, about nothing, to be honest. About nothing. It's been a very lazy day for me.
Yeah, I've been mostly hanging out, working on a few articles, but yeah, today's been kind of a lay low day. I do have to go to the gym later, but yeah, today's been a pretty relaxing day. But as I mentioned, we will be talking about March Madness, and we won't be going game by game. We'll actually talk about some of the narratives, specifically from the Final Four teams, their narratives coming out, and North Carolina State going on a run, which I believe they're the first Final Four team to enter the tournament with 14 losses and make it this
Oh,
far
dang.
in the tournament. So we'll actually start with North Carolina State and DJ Burns. We'll start talking about that. What's been your kind of reaction of this team, and what's kind of stood out in their run in this NCAA tournament?
I mean, for me, it's simple. It's my boy DJ Burns. Whenever you have a big post player, make a post moves, posting up, that's going to be my guy. So I've been loving DJ Burns. But he hasn't been like he's always been dominant. I mean, he was dominant against Duke, but he had like 4 points against who they play in the Sweet 16. I'm blanking.
Was it Marquette?
Yeah, he only had 4 points. It was more of a team ran that, but just everything with DJ Burns. Their whole run is nuts. Semifinals ACC tournament, they have to win the tournament to get in. Virginia misses a free throw and they bank in a 3 to send to overtime. It's kind of wild that has now turned into a Final Four team.
Yeah, I think we both had them losing first round. I don't think either of us had them winning, and maybe you did, but I certainly didn't. I know that they won. They went on that 5-game stretch in the ACC tournament, beating North Carolina and Duke to get to the NCAA tournament. North Carolina State, I think, this past weekend, especially Elite Eight games, outside of UConn, which we'll talk about later, the three teams were basically carried by one player that basically elevated the rest of the team into the Final Four. Zach Edey carried Purdue. DJ Burns carried North Carolina State for the most part against Duke. And then Marcus Sears started slow, but then he ends up hitting, I believe, 6 threes. And I believe he hit 6 straight threes, or 6 threes in a row without missing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then UConn, I think, is just a full team effort. But North Carolina State, I think, the Duke game, it kind of looked like early on this, maybe the game that run finally comes to end. DJ Burns had to carry the load for the most part, and they really, I believe, there was one point they were like 6 of 25 or something from the field. Like their guards were not.
It was
hitting.
bad. It was bad.
Yeah, and it was pretty bad for both sides. It was pretty bad basketball for the most part for the first half, and probably in the second half it kind of started heating up for both teams. But I think this tournament comes down to if you have good guard play, which will be interesting when North Carolina State plays Purdue, because they're both teams that are heavily relied on their big men. But if they can get just solid play of their guards, they can be pretty good. And I think this Final Four is going to be pretty anticlimactic for the most part. I don't really see it be entertaining at all.
Really? You don't see? I don't know, man.
I think UConn's going to run through Alabama, and I think Purdue. I think this is where North Carolina State is finally going to come up short, and probably not. Like, I don't know how they're going to guard Zach Edey. I just don't see it.
But I think that'll be fun if it's Burns guarding Edey and vice versa. I think that's I'm going to enjoy that probably no matter what happens, because I love post players, and I just think that's fun. I don't know about you, but that's fun. I think that the guards could be interesting. I just trust Purdue's guards more to make the right plays at the end. Get that outlet passes to Edey, or not outlet passes, entry passes. But I still think that'd be fun. And then UConn, yeah, it's about can Marcus
I mean,
Sears
yeah.
hit just a ton of threes. It's
And
basically
the thing is,
it.
I think the way that Alabama plays kind of plays right into UConn's hands because they want to play up and down the court. And if they start getting to turnover trouble and all that, I think that plays right to UConn's hands because they want to play in transition, play fast pace, you know, breaking down the court. I think Alabama, I think I would take the UConn spread pretty easily in that one. And then Purdue, I think Zach Edey, the matchup of him and DJ Burns, I just don't think North Carolina State has enough answers for Edey. And I think for the most part, I think I'm rooting for Purdue in that game because I do want to have a better championship game. Because if it's North Carolina State against UConn, it's going to be very similar to the game last year where San Diego State against UConn, except I don't think North Carolina State can do anything to stop UConn's offense at all. San Diego State was at least strong on the defensive side. I just don't think North Carolina State. I would be very interested to see what the spread on that game would be if that
Well, they have the
was the case.
hypothetical. It's like 15.5.
And I
I
probably take
mean,
UConn 15.
I love Burns, but yeah, that if they play UConn, it's gonna suck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but what makes Purdue UConn so interesting? Edey versus Klingon. That's like two potential lottery. Like Klingon's probably a lottery pick. I mean, I'm seeing some stuff where like he could be in the conversation for one because it's a weak draft, and maybe you take the center who could be a defensive monster, but then Edey could be a lottery pick, and those two going at it while Klingon's a
Do
higher
you
draft prospect. Edey's the star of college basketball. That's fun.
do you view Edey as a prototypical lottery pick, or is it because the draft class is so weak that's why he's even in the
I
conversation?
mean, it's because the draft class is weak, but I still think he could be a solid NBA player in the right situation. I feel like it's pretty. Those situations that have been said are the obvious ones. Put him next to Wimby or Shet, San Antonio or OKC. Could you imagine Edey and Wimby if like you're driving the lane, you have Wimby chasing you, and then you have Edey just there. It's like you're not shooting layups. So that could be really fun. Situations like that with the right person, right spot could be really fun. So he's not a typical lottery guy, but I
I
think
don't know
he
if I
could
view
be a
him.
good player.
Is he a starter in the NBA, or do you think he's more a rotational guy that could play, minutes here and there and be an impact on the defensive side?
He's like a situational starter. I don't know. I think he can be a
Yeah,
starter, but
yeah.
not
I
everywhere.
mean, for the most part, I think like Zach Edey and Purdue have definitely proved me wrong. I know I had them losing in the Sweet 16 against Gonzaga, and I've never been a huge fan of Purdue and Zach Edey. I thought that formula, you're not going to be able to get into the Final Four with just being predominantly relied on your big man. I think the tournament comes down to guard play, but they definitely proven me wrong. I think they've proven a lot of people wrong. And you've kind of seen Zach Edey, his post game press conferences and all that. He's had that, a chip on his shoulder of proving people wrong that, a lot of people didn't even recruit him. Like he was talking about Tennessee didn't really recruit him, and other
Mhm.
schools kind of overlooked him because he was just an immobile center who was just had length and height, and that's about it. But he's kind of proven that he can carry a team, and he did that over the weekend, beating Tennessee in that game in itself was, I mean, it's basically Dalton Connect against
That
Zach
was
Edey, and he
fun to
put four other
watch.
people on each team. Yeah, I believe Purdue had 0 bench points that game. Like they had 0 points from the bench.
No, yeah,
So it was
with Connect and with Edey and then with Burns and Sears, you're seeing all these teams being led by like seniors or graduate students. So it's really, I think that just shows how much, especially, I mean, it's so weird with like the COVID year. It's like, well, players, like some players get a sixth year next year, but I
no, it's
think
very
that's
weird.
going to,
Basically, even if you were like an incoming freshman or like a freshman that year, you still get another year of eligibility.
yeah, it's weird. So like next year, the year following year, like I think next year's the last 6 years. I could be wrong. It's that or the following. But you just see all these vets who are 20 somethings and they're just better than the 19-year-olds, which makes sense. And like with Edey, I think a lot of people think that he doesn't have the skill set, that he's just tall. And I've always thought that was ridiculous. And he's gotten a lot better where I'm just happy to see it because not a lot of people like Edie, but I like Edie. Seeing him do well at 7-4, I'm a fan. So it hurts me so much that I may be rooting for Edie against Burns because I love when players like that just dominate. But it's that's why I think that matchup is still fun because of those two.
So do you think that's gonna be a good game? Like, do you actually see that game being entertaining? Or do you, that game, I feel like, I mean, most of Purdue games are they kind of let the team hang around the first half and then they just absolutely take control in the second half. That's been the formula for them at least the last two rounds against Gonzaga and Tennessee, where they first half they let them kind of hang around, then they blow the doors off of them.
I mean, I expect Purdue to win by around double digits, but I think there'll still be fun moments within that game that I'm excited about.
Yeah, I we'll see. Well, let's move on to Alabama. Marcus Sears. So when I watch Marcus Sears, and I don't want to be too like right on the nose on this, but he does remind me of Jalen Brunson of the New York Knicks. Not just because they're lefties, but they're short, stocky guys, can create their own shot. Marcus Sears has developed into a 3-point shooter. I think his freshman year, I believe he shot like 29% from three. So he's developed a 3-point shot. Is there any way you see Alabama keeping it close against UConn? Does Marcus Sears keep it competitive?
See, he doesn't need to go in the lane against Klingon much, but we saw what happened against Terrence Shannon. Terrence Shannon he got locked up. He could not do anything, but he can't
And Alabama
shoot.
doesn't play defense either. Like this game,
Yeah,
I
but
could easily see UConn scoring 90 plus points in this game. Like this is why the Final Four to me, I just don't have high hopes for it. I just mean UConn, Purdue, and then I think UConn's just going to run through everybody. I don't see it being
Alabama's
competitive.
going to need someone else to step up big.
And they had some key contributions from the bench the last game. I forgot who it was, but they had a player score, I believe, 19 off the bench last game
Jaron
against.
Stevenson, freshman.
He dropped 19 against Clemson. But
He
I just
may
don't think
he
Alabama
may need a big
plays.
game.
I just don't think Alabama plays well enough on the defensive side. I don't think they're very committed to that side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean UConn's fantastic. I mean, Dan Hurley's creating a monster at UConn, so it'd be quite the task. But yeah, it's it's tough. Sears would have to really get going, and like you need like
And if I think UConn probably
Grant
focuses
Nelson
on.
and Pringle would have to do well inside. But man, Klingon dominated Illinois inside.
I was actually very impressed by Alabama's performance against North Carolina in the Sweet 16 game. I mean, that game, I think it was 54-46 at halftime. And North Carolina, I mean, they were both teams were lights out first half. And I kind of thought that North Carolina would carry that into the second half, but they kind of fizzled out, especially from the 3-point line. Alabama, I think offensively, I think they have all the answers. You know, if you're looking for a shootout game, but defensively, I don't know. I don't see them really keeping up with UConn. But I
Yeah.
mean, I can see like a 101 to like 85 game or something. It could be absolutely insane because both teams want to play fast paced basketball. I don't think both teams really focus on playing half court basketball. They want to get up and down the court, force turnovers, and I think that plays right into UConn's hands.
Yeah, and I think the main thing is you got to figure out Klingon because Tristan Newton, Caravan, all of them, Castle, they're great, but Klingon I think is what makes them so good. And maybe you can get him outside, but I don't think Pringle shoots a lot. Yeah, it'd just be nuts. It'd have to be a certain type of game. UConn just starts missing like in the first half against Illinois, but then we saw them go on a 30-0 run. It'd have to be the perfect formula.
Before we move on, I've kind of already laid out my predictions for the Final Four and championship. What are your predictions?
I mean, UConn beats Purdue, title game.
Okay. Do you think that game's close at all, or do you think?
I don't know, but I just want to watch Edie versus Klingon. that's going to make one of them more money than they were going to make. Because let's say Edie goes out, let's say he drops 28 and 10 against North Carolina State, and it's Klingon, who's like I've seen some Rudy Gobert comparisons. If he's going to be Rudy Gobert, maybe you should just take him first overall. Like maybe him and Wemby. That's nice. Oh my gosh, Klingon and Wemby would just be blocking everything. Wemby had like 9 blocks against you last night playing Denver against Jokic. That's nuts. But if Edie can drop like 30 on him, that's huge. So I'm just looking forward to that. I don't think anyone's being UConn, but that matchup is like the one matchup I want to see.
All right, let's move on to the big news of the day. And I remember this morning when I texted you and I was asking, potential topics that we could talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And you texted me, well, we just got one right now. I'm like, did something happen? You're like, check Twitter. And I remember you saying, it's stupid, but just check Twitter. It was something along those lines. And so I was like, I wonder what it could be. Like, I was thinking, like, I did not think it was going to be Stefon Diggs trade to the Texans. I thought it was going to be, I don't even know what I was thinking. I was like, what could possibly be happening that Luke thinks is stupid? And Luke thinks a lot of things are stupid, but I was like, what could it possibly be? But then when I saw this, it's like, this makes sense because Luke doesn't think the Texans should be in the market for receiver. So what was your thought process when you first saw this? I kind of already hinted at what you thought, but why did you think it was not the best move by the Texans?
The Texans got better. Yes, they got better. Now you have 3 stud receivers. Because Nico Collins is a stud. I don't care what you say. He's a stud. You have 1,200 yards, and then in the playoff game, you should have got even more if Stroud didn't miss him deep, wide open. I mean, he could have had an insane playoff game. He was very good in the playoffs. You have Tank Dell coming back. Then you have Diggs, and he's kind of a head case. And now he may be your wide receiver 3. And you have Schultz and Mixon, and you have good 4th and 5th and 6th number receivers. So you got better. But it's like, couldn't you have just signed Odell? And he's
I'm
your
not signing Odell. Why Odell's basically
he's your okay, because
I would not say Diggs is your clear 3. I'd say Diggs
I
is
didn't
more of a
say that.
2.
I said he could be your 3. I don't
think
know.
he's a 2.
I think he's the 3. I think Dell and Collins are better. I think Diggs has fallen off some. He's still good, but Odell be cheaper, not a pick, not long term. He was number 1 in air yards per reception last year, I believe. He's not the best. It is a good
He's
stat,
always
Logan.
hurt. He's always hurt.
Okay,
He's even hurt
Logan,
last year
you're
towards the
not
end of the
letting me
year.
finish a statement here, man. Logan, do you know what? He's your wide receiver 3, and you have Mechie, and you have Brown, and you have Woods. So do you know what you get to do, Logan? You get to stagger his minutes a lot, his snaps a lot. But guess what? He's more talented than those guys. He still showed moments of greatness. You can't act. He had moments of greatness with Baltimore. But he can't do it all the time. So as a wide receiver 3 with a better throwing quarterback, 2 weapons who are clearly better than him, I think Odell's a great wide receiver 3 on a team where you get to play limited snaps but then show up in certain moments. I think that would have been great because you're not relying on him a ton, but he can show up in that big moment when you need it. But now you've given up a future second. I know you got a 5th and 6th back. But I don't know. And Odell's not going to be a head case on a team. I think Odell knows where he's at. He knows that he's like a wide receiver 3, especially helping 2 young guys. That's even better. I think Odell would have been the fit. Diggs is a lot more money.
And yeah, they gave up a second, but it wasn't even their own second. They still have a second for next year's draft. They had 2 seconds because of the trade they made with the Vikings. It was Vikings pick they gave up. You still have your second for 2025. I think it's a pretty low risk trade. And yeah, second round pick's a pretty, it's a day 2 pick, high draft capital. But it's not until next year. You didn't give up anything that, hampers your ability to build the team this year.
No, you're a better team. Yes, I understand.
I think this is a low risk move. And I think he's clear. Yeah, Odell would be a clear number 3, but I think Diggs would be number 2 in this offense, and I think he's more of a like a 2A. You have Nico Collins as your 1, Diggs is your 2, and I really like Tank Dell, but do I think he's a 2 right now? He could be a 2, but I think Tank Dell's a great number 3. You weaken another team in your conference, and I think when you have a quarterback that's really good on a rookie deal, you can take some risk and you can possibly overpay for a few players to make your offense better. I mean, now you have Stroud, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Stefon Diggs, Dalton Schultz. You have Joe Mixon in the backfield. You improved your defense. I mean, I think for the Texans, show that you're all in and try to win now when you have a quarterback on a cheap deal. I really like the move, and I'm not the biggest Stefon Diggs fan just based on character, but I think if they can, hold down his antics a bit, because I think some of his antics, was the fact that he was trying to force himself out of Buffalo. I think he wanted to be out of there, and he was
Okay.
he was just saying things to force his way out. I do think some of the antics were he wanted the ball more, but I also think some of it
He's not
was
going to get
he
it more,
wanted out of there.
Logan. He's going to get it way less.
Okay, but he also wants to win, and I believe he felt that
Okay.
Buffalo was not taking advantage of their roster and the
Okay. Oh my gosh,
chance, the
Stefon
opportunity they
Diggs,
had.
the GM Stefon Diggs. Oh my gosh, you almost beat the Chiefs twice. Oh, but we're not close to winning.
I never said they were not close. I'm saying they didn't take
Yeah.
advantage of those opportunities. Is what I'm saying.
Okay, so every player who just says, "Hey, you messed up that draft. I'm gonna ask for a trade." That's stupid.
I'm not saying
Diggs,
anything based on the draft. I'm not saying anything based on the
oh yeah,
draft. I'm saying
taking
what they did on the
advantage of
field.
stuff, draft, free agency. Guess what? They were this close to beating the
I'm not even
Chiefs.
saying that. I'm saying taking advantage of what happened in your conference. Joe Burrow's hurt. Bengals are out of it. Chiefs have
Oh
a
my
weak
gosh,
receiver
Logan,
core.
Logan, you were this close to being the Super Bowl champions. You're this
That's great,
close.
and you weren't, and you went all in, and
Yes, and
now
do you know who?
you
Do you know Logan? Do you know who dropped the ball that could have won them the game?
okay,
Perfect
Stephon Diggs.
ball.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
so he
You
has
also
no Logan. Logan, he has no right to be like, oh, the team didn't take advantage. No, Diggs was bad to end the
I'm
year.
not saying that he's not saying that also he's not part of the puzzle in that.
Yes,
I'm
he
just saying
is, Logan. Oh my
I
gosh.
just said he was. I just said his thought
But
process.
you just said Logan,
I'm saying Luke, can you let me talk, please? Holy crap. I'm not saying that he didn't say he was part of the puzzle. He was definitely part of the problem. But my
he
point is,
didn't say that though.
okay, but that's what I am. But that's my opinion on the situation, Luke. My opinion, he was definitely part of the problem there. But at the same time, they didn't take advantage. And we talk about this all the time. You say, "Oh, salary cap doesn't matter. You can go all in, and it doesn't matter. You don't have any issues taking away and building around cap." Well, guess what? They've lost major pieces, so you're wrong on that.
I'm
Secondly,
yes, they've
you're wrong
lost some
on that.
pieces. They've
Yeah,
lost
you're
some
wrong on that.
pieces. Nothing
You said,
great.
"Oh, you can build it." You
Nothing
basically
huge. Stefon Diggs is the hugest thing, and they could have kept him.
okay, but my point is, yes, he was a problem there, but he also noticed I'm getting older. It's not working out here. Let's go to a different situation. And that's not.
Wasn't
And
he a
I'm not saying he's
problem
right
in
or wrong. And
Minnesota?
I'm not saying he's right or wrong in that. I'm just saying that's what I think his thought process was, and that's
Wasn't
why I think
he?
this antics grew. Even because, like, even yesterday, he responded to somebody on Twitter. I think his antics were definitely he is a receiver that has a major ego. We all know that. But I think at the end of his tenure with Buffalo, I think part of his antics were, I want to get out of here. I just signed an extension, so this would make it easier for them to trade me. I think that's what his thought process was, and that's all I was going to say.
Doesn't that? Do you know what that just does? That makes the trade look worse for what you all described. Why would you want that around your young receivers and your young quarterback? Why would you want that? He had to leave Minnesota. Guess what? They got rid of him. They could have kept him and maybe moved on from Thielen, who's older. No, they moved Diggs. Buffalo, they have no weapons who are great. Josh, and I saw Coward said that Josh Allen kind of gave the okay. He was done with it. I
No,
don't think it.
I'm not saying that Stephon not at fault for anything. I think he's an
No,
egomaniac.
but okay, you're not.
But I
He's
also think for
he
Houston,
can.
it's worth the risk for giving up a 2025 second. That's my point.
I
Is that
think.
this
I
isn't.
think. Okay, you're not. He is not. He's not as good as he was. I think we
Okay,
know
that's true.
that.
Yes, yeah, we both agree on that.
He was never even like. I think he was always a little overrated. I don't think he was top 5. I think Josh Allen helped him be top 5 because Josh Allen's one of the best
1,400 yards
quarterbacks.
his first year, Josh Allen. And that was before Josh
Yeah,
Allen was really
no,
known
yeah,
as
and I
a
still don't
superstar
think he was top
quarterback.
5. I don't think that was like Antonio Brown was still good then, and there's I'd take Mike Evans, I'd take Devontae, list goes on. He's never been Justin Jefferson's been better than him ever since he's been in the league. Jamar Chase has been better than him ever since he's been in the league. Cooper Kupp's been better. He hasn't been top 5 in my opinion. I'd take Keenan Allen over him. He can cause chaos anywhere he goes. He can cause chaos with the Texans. He's costing so much money. And when does a team have 3 great receivers and ever win?
I want to categorize any of these
When do
receivers
they
as great
win?
receivers. I think they're
When
all
do they
good.
win?
Yeah,
When do
but
they win?
you're basing it off the fact that you think they're all great receivers. I don't think they're all great
Tank
receivers. I
Dell
think
had
they're really
700
good.
yards in 11 games.
Okay,
Nico Collins
okay,
had 1,200
great.
yards.
So
Stefon Diggs is Stefon Diggs.
saying
You're
a
going to have
receiver is great is
okay.
that
You're
you know
going
I mean
way
you're going
overboard on the
over
word.
no, but
You're going
you're
overboard
saying
on the word
great.
great. Yeah, great
Yeah,
receiver.
great. I would say like Devontae Adams,
Great's
great
not
receiver.
top.
Tyreek Hill, great
These
receiver.
are insanely good receivers. These are very talented receivers. When's the last team who's won with 3 of them? I think it's maybe too many mouths. You have the chance of having this quarterback or this receiver mess with your young receivers, who I think have shown they're really good. Mess with your quarterback, who we already know is good. You gave up a second, and you're paying him a ton of money. You could have just got Odell, and honestly, I think the production would be pretty similar. Odell would be on less snaps. I trust Odell more. Diggs,
What?
everywhere he goes,
Ball's
he's a
never on the
headache.
field. How can you trust him more?
Oh my gosh, snaps, Logan. He would not have to take that many snaps when he's with Baltimore. Bateman was hurt all the time, and Zay Flowers is a rookie. Now he gets Stroud, and he has Robert Woods and Mechie and Noah Brown behind him. He gets to work in slowly. He doesn't need to play 50 snaps a game. And you know what? He's still really good. On any play, Odell could be the best
You're
receiver on
saying
the
Odell's
field.
really good. This
In moments. He's Logan, when you're number 1 in the league in yards per catch, there's something there. It's not just your he's still got something there. He isn't who he was either, because
so you think he's better than Stefon Diggs?
no, again, I just laid out.
Well, you say he's great because you said Stefon Diggs has fallen off, and you said
I
Odell's a
said
really good
Odell's
receiver.
great in moments. You're
Well, you
you're
didn't.
you're trying to glue in on words here, Logan. Don't do that. Odell has his moments, and that's all you need from your 3 when you already have multiple other number 3 worthy receivers. You don't need the one guy. You can have a plethora of number 3 worthy receivers. I think it was a lot. Everyone's gonna love the move. You're better, yes, but I think there's a lot more risk than you think. He could be a whole head case, and it's salary cap that you can use on something else. When Odell probably would have cost like 12 mil, and you lost a 2nd-round pick. I don't
So
know.
you'd rather pay Odell 12
Yes,
million.
right. Yes, you have the money. Clearly, there's not a ton of free agency,
Yeah, if you have the money,
but
then
you have
what's your point about the salary cap? You have the
you
money
have,
clearly, and you can get Diggs.
this
Like,
money for Diggs is also next year. Odell could be a 1 year 12 mil. Could you imagine number if your number 3 is Odell, your number 4 is Noah Brown, your number 5 is Woods, your number 6 is 2nd-round pick Mechie, who still hasn't even gotten back into it. We don't know how good Mechie could be. You don't need Diggs. You don't need, and you have Schultz, a very good receiving tight end. You just didn't need him. I like trying to win now, but I think this was the wrong move.
I mean, I really don't mind the move. I mean, I think at the same time you're strengthening your team, and even though Diggs was he just kind of disappeared late for the Bills. I think it also weakens the Bills in the same conference
They
that you're
got
trying to compete in.
the fact that the Bills, their number 1 receiver is Curtis Samuel, and they're taking 31 million dead cap, and they're still just like, take him.
No, it's very telling. I agree with that, but I
Yes,
also think it's
and
still you're
you
still
don't
getting a
need
player that
that
I think
type
can be
of
productive.
guy in a young locker room with young stars. It makes that part. It's like you got to think
So
about that.
you think this trade? So what you think Buffalo won this trade? I'm quite
Yes,
confused of what.
I think Buffalo, because they got rid of Diggs, and you had to get rid of Diggs. Addition by subtraction. It's not like he did anything against the Chiefs, and Josh Allen was still fantastic. I couldn't tell you his exact stats. I'll look it up now.
Who was Stephon
I'll
Diggs'
look
stats?
against the Chiefs in the playoff game.
Did he have like
He
two
had
catches
21
for?
yards. 21 yards. And Josh Allen was phenomenal. He was phenomenal. He had 21 yards. You don't need Diggs if you're Buffalo. They're gonna figure something out. If they could go
No, no.
trade for like
Let's
Ayuk,
talk about it from Buffalo's perspective, and that's exactly what I was going to say. I think that they either trade for Ayuk using the 28th pick, or because I don't see trading up in this draft. I think it's gonna be like I've seen people say like, "Oh, trade up to 9 with Chicago." That's gonna take way more draft capital than just trading for Ayuk,
agreed.
in my opinion. I think you can get Ayuk for the 28th pick and possibly like a 28th and a 4th, or you could package something else. But if I'm the Bills, I think I'm gonna just try trade for Ayuk on draft night, and I think Ayuk does end up getting traded on draft night. I just don't know where, but I think Ayuk is probably the answer for me, and then you go draft a receiver second round to pair Ayuk
I
because
assume they have a plan here. I assume,
well
or you
they
can use
definitely did
the
not
pick
make
that
this
you just,
trade blind. They definitely had a plan in place when they made this trade. Like
or you can trade the pick that you just got. You could trade that second round pick.
I mean, you can always package that too, but that's a
Yeah.
2025 pick. But yeah, you could always do that
Okay, yeah,
too.
but you
I
say
think.
that, but the Chiefs and the Bills have now taken on 2025 picks. It's
Well,
not
yeah,
like
yeah,
those
yeah.
are like
I'm not saying you. Okay, stop being so defensive, man. I'm just saying like that's
you're
25
you're
pick.
but you're
But I
just
think
I don't think that's as big of a deal as
well,
you think.
like I
'Cause
said,
now
I
multiple
think they can also
teams.
package that pick that they got in the Texans trade.
Well, yeah,
I
but
think
you're.
that's definitely
I
a good pick.
think acting like 2025 is like this lower. It obviously is lower value, but the Chiefs took a 2025, and now the Bills are taking 2025. So
Well, yeah.
teams are willing to take 2025 picks.
Now, do you think
I
this trade does this trade affect? And we'll keep talking about the Bills side of this trade, but do you think this trade affects the receiver market, like for Higgins, IU? Does their trade price come down a bit, or do you think that this is kind of has absolutely nothing to do with
I don't think it
those players'
does.
price tag?
Those players you can argue are worth a first round pick. I don't think anyone would have traded a first round pick for Diggs.
No, no, no.
Diggs
I
at
agree
his
there.
best was traded for the 22nd pick, which obviously don't put in mind that it was Justin Jefferson. We didn't know Justin Jefferson could be the best receiver in this league, but it was a 22nd pick he was traded for. So that's at his best. And now it's been like 4 years and he's become more of a head case. Getting a second round pick for Diggs is pretty solid.
So, for the Bills, does this change your thought process at all? And we'll have to see what they did in the draft. But the AFC East, did the Jets and the Bills, was there a gap close between those two teams? Would you still say your confidence level is still the same in the Bills, or do you think Jets or even Dolphins could potentially make a push for the AFC East?
Well, the Jets is all about health, and I
Mm-hmm.
just don't trust it. And the Dolphins, they're still like, once it hits late October, I don't trust them. And I still trust the Bills enough. I think that this whole offseason, they've had the plan to rebuild. Maybe not in the most like, go grab this guy, but rebuild in a more conventional way. But you still have Josh Allen, and you still have the same coaching staff.
Because I saw the odds now are Bills plus 160 and now Dolphins are plus 170. So it's very close between those two
I
teams.
mean, yeah, that's
And the
fine. They
Jets are
should
plus
probably be
240.
close. They should probably be close, but I still trust the Bills. I trust that they have a plan. The Dolphins, I just can't trust them once it gets cold. That's the
Yeah.
thing. Now that there's more time of people seeing them and as I said, Diggs had 21 yards against the Chiefs. The Bills' offense, I think, is very Josh Allen dependent. As we know, it's too Josh Allen dependent, but I still think they're gonna be fine. Khalil Shakir picked some stuff up. He's nothing special. He picked some stuff up. Curtis Samuel showed some stuff last year with Sam Howell. Now he has Josh Allen. And I think Curtis Samuel's better than Gabe Davis. And they could still snag Brandon Ayuk potentially. If you told me that they have Ayuk, Curtis Samuel, Khalil, that's better than last year's offense. Kincaid's a year older. Cook is a year older. I still like the Bills.
I still think you're understating like I I still would take the Bills because I don't trust the Jets in general, even health wise. I don't. In addition to health, Dolphins I don't trust, but I think the big picture contending the AFC, the Bills. I don't know. I don't have as much faith in the Bills as I haven't had in the past couple of years. I know they
All
have
of the
Josh Allen and all that, but I still think losing you could say, oh, they're old players and all that. You're still losing key players that were on
They're
your roster
also
the last
old
couple of years.
players
And I
who
know they're old
didn't
players too.
play
Yeah,
they were hurt themselves. They missed games.
but I think the Bills also have more
They
needs,
lost
especially at
Tre'Davious
receiver.
White mid-year, and I think they won out in the regular season once he got hurt. I just no. Diggs is the biggest impact, but again, he wasn't even as good as he usually was. They didn't lose
Uh,
anyone in my mind where it's like, dang, that's huge. They just didn't.
I know, but they
You
definitely
see
didn't
the
get stronger
Chiefs.
this offseason.
Okay,
They definitely getting stronger, and
yes,
teams
but they
around them are
also
getting
nearly
better.
beat the Chiefs. They nearly beat the Chiefs, and you can say the Chiefs are getting better, but then we said that last year, and then the Chiefs did not look as good. Once it's playoff time, Josh Allen can beat anyone. Same way Mahomes can beat anyone.
But
Same
okay,
way
yeah, he can, but he
Burrow can
hasn't.
beat it.
Josh Allen's
Okay,
not beaten anybody. You
okay,
can
they
say all
miss
you
a
want about it. The
okay,
Bills
he
have been
gets
for
missed
years
field
nearly
goals.
winning.
He gets missed field goals. Okay. Are you just gonna do that
I'm
with
not
everyone
blaming on
who
Josh
hasn't
Allen, but I'm
won a
saying the
Super
Bill. You could always say nearly or
Okay,
almost. That's great.
because only one team can win it all, Logan. And right now the Chiefs are in a dynasty. So that's kind of a problem.
I
It's
think
kind of a
like look at AFC. I would rank it like if I had to rank teams, I would do Chiefs one, obviously, and I'm gonna do for this year. I'm not gonna do for multiple years. But I was put Chiefs one. I would put Bengals two because I'm gonna take playoff consideration into it. Like Lamar Jackson has come up short in the playoffs, hasn't played well. Right now, I'd have Houston three, Baltimore four, and then I'd probably have. I mean, the Chargers. You're getting Jim Harbaugh. I don't know if I put him
The
five.
Chargers are not better than the
No,
Bills
they're
right
not. They're
now.
not. They're
Come
not. Not.
on.
But I'm not saying that. But I'm saying there's a lot of teams coming up in the AFC, and I probably put Bills at five, like overall. But there's still other teams improving in the AFC. Colts
Yes,
are
that's
improving.
yeah, but then
Like the
what's
Bills, I think are not. They went all in these last 2 years and they didn't win, and now they have to
yes,
retool and rebuild.
and
And
I
there's no
still think they're
guarantee that they're going to get it right on the retooling and picking the right
I
players and getting
know,
the right
but they
players in there.
still there's been one people talk about the Bengals. The Bengals, there's been two teams who've really challenged the Chiefs in the playoffs. It's been the Bengals and the Bills. The Bills have not won either one, but we all know there was 13 seconds and they needed a stop and they kind of played dumb. And
Okay.
then they were up on the Chiefs last year. They're still right there with all these disappointments. So my point is, if they ever figure out some talent a little better, dude, they're right there. All Josh Allen has to do is make the playoffs. That's all he has to do. That's my point to everything. He just has to make the playoffs. Saw it with Mahomes. All he has to do is make the playoffs, and you're good.
I'm not even
Allen,
comparing Mahomes and Josh Allen at this point. Mahomes has been there, done that, won three Super
okay,
Bowls.
yes,
Josh Allen,
Mahomes is better, but Josh Allen has again nearly beaten the Chiefs twice, where you can't blame him for those losses. You can't just because someone hasn't
I'm not
won a
saying at all, but you're
just because
simplifying the
someone hasn't.
Bills, and you've been doing it all offseason. You've been simplifying their issues.
Yes,
You said, oh, they'll figure
yeah,
out the
I
cap
think
space. They won't have to get rid of anybody. They got rid of multiple players in multiple key positions.
yeah,
They
no one
lost both the
huge, no one
receivers,
huge. They got rid of Diggs because they wanted to, not because they needed to, because they wanted to. Everyone
but
else
they're
was
still
not that
losing
big.
pieces. Like I don't
Yes, I
understand what you're
understand
talking.
that.
Like they've lost
Becau
multiple
there's
players, and
addition by subtraction. There's addition by subtraction, which Diggs is.
I feel like they just missed their opportunity. Like last year was a prime opportunity to go make a run. You
Okay,
had a
but
home game.
there's always
Chiefs
gonna
were
be
not as good.
situation.
Bengals are hurt. But that was with that type of roster. You're not gonna have that type of roster this upcoming year.
They were
I
having a
don't believe you
disaster, and
will.
then they won 6 straight regular season games to end the season. Well, these players who they got rid of were hurt, and Diggs was doing nothing. Everyone's talking about this window closing. It doesn't close just because you haven't won a Super Bowl yet. You can't just always criticize these teams because they haven't won it yet. It's a process. There's a dynasty going on in your conference right now, who you have played extremely tough. One day they're going to get that break that they haven't gotten yet. They have not gotten the breaks. They will probably get something here soon because I think that's just kind of how it all works. And you still have Josh Allen, who
If you're
competed
just gonna
really
bank
well.
on that, you're gonna get a break. Then I don't know. Then
But
your thought. I just like.
they've gotten all the bad breaks so far, haven't they?
I mean, last year was a good break.
No,
That's my
they
point.
were okay. Here's why you're wrong. They were also extremely hurt last year. Their whole defense fell apart last year. They had so many injuries. You didn't have Von Miller. doing anything. You lost Tre'Davious White. You lost all these pieces mid-year.
But you just said those two players don't meet. You just said Tre'Davious White was not a big impact player. Now
Yes,
you're bringing
but
up
he
his
still
argument.
yes, exactly. Also, Poyer was hurt during the year, as was Hyde. They were all hurt, and they still managed the way to get right there against the Chiefs.
I just
And then
think
they had a field goal to
I
send it to overtime and then missed it.
I'm not gonna be banking on. If I'm a team, I'm not gonna be saying, okay, let's go into here hoping that something breaks our way. I'm trying
No,
to build
that's
something
not
so
what
we
I'm
don't have to depend
saying.
on that
I'm
type of break.
saying that they've had the bad breaks and they've still been pretty close.
But the thing is, you can also look at the past 4 years. They've taken a step back each of these 4 years. They're in the AFC Championship game against Chiefs, lost. Then the next year they lose. I believe they lose to the Bengals. The following year,
They had such a weird
no,
no one had
but I just
yeah,
think
bad
here's the thing.
break.
This has been the Buffalo Bills story for 30 years now, where they get tough breaks. And I don't believe in Sean McDermott. I think they should have moved off of him. I don't care if you made the play. Sean McDermott, I don't think he's the right guy. You can say, oh, they get bad breaks. They also put themselves in position. We can talk about the Eagles game's kind of off topic, but that game, you have the ball end of regulation. Instead of trying to take some shots with your superstar quarterback, you kneel the ball. The Bills game against the Chiefs, he does a fake punt, which I don't even know why you do that.
No,
They escaped by that
yes,
with a
with all
fumble with
this.
McLaurin. That's my thing about the Bills. I'm not. This isn't about me not saying Josh Allen can't do it. It it's more about the foundation around him, and I don't trust their coaching or the players around him. That's my
And
point. And I think
this is
they
why
keep doing the same things.
I think with them like kind of starting over, it's a growth process, and this year was a huge growth process. When I look at it, you had a lot of losses you shouldn't have lost. Then you got really good at the end of the regular season, and then you had the Chiefs on the road, and you kind of screwed it up again. And now I think they're kind of taking a step back, reevaluating some things, and then go in with a more clear mindset on how to win. And I think they'll still be fine. They again, you listed all those things, and they're still right there with all those
Okay,
stupid
let's
mistakes.
let's just do hypothetical, and this is always what if and all that. But let's say for whatever reason they don't win their division. Okay, let's just say they don't win their division this year. Let's fast forward. They're like,
Mhm.
are they a for sure lock playoff team if they're not winning their division? Because AFC, like you have the Chargers
No
playing
one
last week's
is.
schedule.
No one is except the Chiefs.
You wouldn't say like the Bengals or the
No,
Ravens.
did the Bengals just make it, Logan?
No, but or like
Oh,
okay,
so they
okay.
didn't
Let
make
me
it.
do it. Let me do this real quick. So I
That was
think
not a good
Chiefs win their
one.
division. So let's say Chiefs, Bengals, Houston, and let's say Jets win for what. Let's just say
Again,
that.
you're assuming a lot on the Bengals. They missed the playoffs last year.
Okay, and you're assuming a lot on the Bills. They keep
Yeah, a
coming
team who
forward.
made the
And you keep
playoffs
you're
last
you're
year.
assuming that
Made
they're
the
going to
playoffs
get better,
last
even though they
year.
lost major
Made
pieces.
the playoffs last year.
That's last year, pal. I don't
Yeah,
care what. And they've lost. It's a
you're
completely
talking
different
about
team.
previous years. The
Okay,
Bengals
but you're acting like the Bills.
and the
You're acting like
Bengals
they basically
division's much
went through
tougher.
this whole offseason not losing anything. Basically, they didn't lose anything. In your opinion, they didn't lose anything. They
I
basically stayed
honestly think
pat.
they're fine. I think they're fine, yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't like. I think a lot of these teams in the AFC are also improving while they've lost pieces. Chargers got. I know Chargers roster wise, but got a head coach Jim Harbaugh who has won everywhere. You have the Jets who have gotten better, even though injury's still a risk and a question there. You have Pittsburgh who's upgraded their quarterback position, even though I'm not sure if
No,
any
yeah,
quarterback
there's
fixes the
upgrades that
situation.
happen, but as we learned throughout seasons,
Houston's upgraded. I mean,
there's always like in every sport, you can look at the NBA as well. There's always like you put like, man, every team can make the playoffs this year, except maybe like one from this conference. And then it's 12 weeks in, and you're like, you know what? There's probably only one or two teams fighting for it. That happens every year. And the Bills have a stabilizer to when whenever it's like that. And they looked like they weren't going to make it last year. And you said they weren't going to make it when they were 6-6. Josh Allen brought them to the playoffs. Because this happens every year in all sports. You think that there's all these teams, and then there's not.
so
Because
what would
stuff
you rank if
happens.
you had to rank the AFC? Just in it doesn't even have to be like division win. Just rank the top teams in the AFC right now.
I mean, the Chiefs are number one. Baltimore's number two, but then you don't trust them in the playoffs. Baltimore's number two. They kept most of their roster, and they added another regular season phenom in Derrick Henry. Texans roster is more talented. I'll give you Texans are more talented, but they were before the trade.
You saying they were before the trade? Is that what you said? I didn't hear you
Yeah,
say
they were still
they were.
better
Okay.
before the
I
trade.
mean,
But
they also
again,
added Daniel Hunter. I mean,
well, yeah, I'd probably still take Bills and Stroud was really good.
give me Houston over Bills. That's not even a question. That's not even a question for me. Houston's roster is way better than Bills right now.
No, yeah, it's better roster. I agree. It's also a younger roster, less experienced roster. Going to the playoffs was huge for them. I like the Texans. I just think the Bills are still fine.
So do you have Bills at 4? I mean, there's still Cincinnati you haven't named.
I'm not huge on Cincinnati. I'm just not. I'd honestly have them ahead of Cincinnati. Cincinnati, they don't even know if they're keeping Higgins. And I think that's a
They
weird
saw
thing.
Chase.
Yeah, it's one guy. It's one receiver, quarterback. I think that's still great. And you're also losing Boyd, who wasn't that much of a factor, but you still missed
I
the
am
playoffs
so
last
perplexed
year.
right now. I'm so perplexed with what you see in Buffalo. I know Josh Allen, but other than
I
that,
see
I
a
think
team that's
roster
nearly beat the
construction
Chiefs
wise,
twice. A team that goofy stuff is why they've lost to the Chiefs. And they've had their struggles through it.
you could say Bengals have beat the Chiefs 3 times out of 4.
But playoffs, they beat them once. The Chiefs blew a huge lead, and then the Bengals just missed the playoffs.
Okay, but they had a gauntlet of injuries, and
So
like you
did
could
the
say that.
Bills.
Yeah, but you could say they had
So
a bad
did the
break.
Bills. So did the
Bills didn't lose their
Bills.
quarterback.
Okay, Josh Allen
That
doesn't
is
get hurt.
completely
Josh Allen
that's
doesn't get hurt.
okay, but I mean, come on.
There's
Last year
probably
was a
not a
pretty bad
single.
break for
Everyone
Cincinnati.
talks about Josh Allen's gonna have a short prime. He's the only young quarterback who hasn't really gotten hurt.
And I agree with that, but I just think if we're going to talk about bad breaks and all that and injuries, I mean, losing your
Yeah, the
quarterback is
Bills had
way.
a ton, Logan. The Bills had a ton. They had a
I mean,
ton of
if we're going to
injuries.
compare,
Their
if we're
whole
going to compare like
defense.
if we're going to compare
Yes,
marginal players
the
like you stated earlier to losing your star quarterback, I don't know where to.
but this
How
is
to compare those two.
mid-season where now you have to really adjust. If you have a whole offseason knowing this, this, and this, that's much easier. Obviously, Joe Burrow is a bigger injury than anything the Bills
Than the
had, but
average players you named, yeah.
they still got decimated with injuries and had to throw people who weren't expecting to play instantly out on the field. They had like 3 or 4 cornerbacks out in 1 week, and they still managed to win games. I think that shows something.
I know, but
You had
basically
linebackers out. You had pass rushers out.
when you say Bengals didn't make the playoffs, a lot of that's because Joe Burrow got hurt. Like he tore his wrist.
Yeah, but they still had a shot. And they were still there's times they were bad with Joe Burrow, and they still
Yeah, he
had
was never healthy.
competent. Yeah, they still had competent quarterback play in Jake Browning. They didn't make it, and the Bills did.
Okay, but am I supposed to base Cincinnati's whole like this year on last year then that they didn't make
They
because you're
missed
basically they didn't
no,
make
but
playoffs last year, so they can't like
the
they're gonna
Bengals
if
missed the
Joe Burrow stays
playoffs,
healthy, they are better than the Bills. Even if they
and the
trade
Bills
Higgins, let's say
still
they get
have
a first for
talent.
Higgins.
If you look at the Bills secondary, you have Taron Johnson, Virgil Douglas, Mike Edwards, who I think we both know is pretty good from the Chiefs, Taylor Rapp, and Christian Benford, who showed potential, young guy. You still have Matt Milano. Matt Milano, they missed him. He was huge, and they missed him during the season. He's back. You have Bernard, who's fine, but then you still have Gregory Rousseau, AJ Spencer, Ed Oliver, Jaquan Jones. You still have you don't suck anywhere. You don't
I'm not
suck
saying suck.
anywhere.
I just
You need
think
to,
my point is if they struggled that much to
and
get
you
just
still
to
have
get into
Von
the playoffs
Miller,
last
who could
year.
have a bounce back.
Von Miller didn't do. Oh, he's not bounce. My
Yeah, he could
God, if
still have
we're
a
gonna
bounce
say
back. He's still valuable to have. He could be a bounce back. Von Miller is one of the best pass rushers ever. That's valuable to have as a
doesn't mean he's still
backup.
good. He didn't do anything last year. Like really do not
No, I
understand.
know,
Like
but
he could bounce back. A lot of your stuff they could do
he's
this
not going
if
to
they
have
did
like
this if they get
12
a break.
sacks. He's
There's a
not
lot
going to
of
have like
ifs
12.
and
Okay,
all
he's not
that.
going to have like 12 sacks, but if he's your backup pass rusher, that's pretty solid to still have Von Miller. And then their
I
offensive line,
I
they kept Deion Dawkins. They signed David Edwards from the Rams, Connor McGovern and they have Dallas for center, replacing Mitch Morse. You got to hope he's solid. Cyrus O'Terrence, who they drafted in the second round last year. Spencer Brown, who's all right. You still have an O-line. You're good at tight end. You're good at running back. You need a receiver. You're not
You
terrible,
need
and you're the second.
receivers. I think you still need number 2. Like the Curtis Samuel and Khalil
Curtis,
Shakir are solid, but those are slot guys. I think those are number 3s.
yeah, but you have
I don't,
two
I don't think
tight
there's
ends, so
2.
you're going to throw out a lot as receivers. Kincaid's probably going to play receiver a lot, and then you'll have Dawson Knox lined up at tight end. So you're kind of allowed to have 2 3s.
I don't know. Like I think if the Jets,
You
if they're
need a
smart,
receiver. Like the Bills need a receiver. They cannot not get a receiver.
no, like, but that's my point. That's what I'm trying to say is that a receiver's a need, but I also believe that they have needs all over the roster. And
I
one,
just
like,
where's there's needs all over the roster.
I still think offensive line. You can still try to upgrade offensive line. I know you said that you have pieces on offensive line. I would still try to do that.
Yeah, they
Corners,
got,
you
they
say
got a couple
corners.
pieces.
You say there's potential there. I don't think you have a true lockdown
You
number 1
don't
corner there.
you don't always need a lockdown corner. They didn't
They
have one
whiffed on
last year.
Elam. Receivers
That's
like
multiple drafts ago.
I know, but I just think that was 2 drafts ago. I just
Yeah,
think
multiple drafts ago.
I just think
It's
the
about to be
Bills.
3 drafts ago.
I don't think receiver is just gonna they get a receiver and everyth's solved. I still think there's other
But
stuff that they lost so many secondary players.
but that
You can
has
say
nothing.
those other players come
This is
in.
all stemming from the Stefon Diggs trade. If you get a receiver, you're literally at the same spot
I
you
still think
were.
they needed a receiver even before Stefon Diggs trade. You didn't have anybody like I didn't think they had a number 2,
But
and
the
I
thing
think
is,
Stefon
you can
Diggs
get
dropped
someone
off.
who's. But that's what I just said about the tight ends. If you get a true one, not a Stefon Diggs one, who can't do anything for the second half of the year, you get Ayuk. You have a 1. You have 2 tight ends. Knox is above average tight end if he's tight end, and we know Kincaid's good. Kincaid will line up at receiver more. Curtis Samuel can be like their little running back plus receiver guy, and Shakir's solid. And you have Josh Allen, who still runs the ball. James Cook is a receiving back. You'll still be fine in the passing game, in my opinion. If you go get like a Ayuk, I love Ayuk to them. They need to go get Ayuk.
I would say I would feel a lot different if they can get like an established receiver like Ayuk. Because I don't think Higgins is an option because I don't see Bengals trading Higgins to the
Probably
Bills.
not.
I think it's Ayuk, or if you could somehow land a gem in one of these rookies, I'll feel a lot different. But I think I don't know right now. I think if Jets play the draft right, because I think what the Jets should do at 10 is either trade back and take a tackle or just take a tackle there. Like I do not think they should take Brock Bowers. I think you still have to get protection. Like Tyron Smith is injury prone. If the Jets, if they can kind of show that they've kind of evolved into not just being Aaron Rodgers centric and actually trying to draft for what's best for the team, I'll think a lot differently about the Jets. If they do that, I'd probably pick the Jets to win this division.
I mean, they drafted
If
Will McDonald last year, so not every pick is Aaron Rodgers.
I know, but like last year they got Alan Lazard, they got Randall Cobb,
No,
they
yeah,
got
and didn't they?
Nathaniel
Did they
Hackett.
cut Lazard, or was it that they're just trying to trade him?
I thought they just cut him.
Did they cut him? I don't remember if they actually did or not.
Well, I just don't think he'll be part of the offense anyway.
No, yeah, he won't. But I mean, I like Mike Williams.
They still gave him a pretty good contract last year. Was it?
No, yeah, it was a terrible contract.
Like the biggest question for Jets.
No, he's still on the roster.
Okay, a lot of my questions about the Jets will be answered by the end of this upcoming draft.
Yeah, and I think the Bills
if they play the draft smartly, I would probably take. I think Jets roster wise, I think they improved vastly in some key spots they needed to improve in, and then I think the Bills kind of just took a step back. And I don't know the Bills.
And they have 11 picks in this draft. They have 11 picks. Well, now is it 10? It's 10 picks.
They give the 5th and 6th.
Well, but I think the 6th is next year.
Was 6th in next year's draft? Okay.
Yeah.
Probably 10 picks. I mean, but it's not, just because you have draft picks doesn't mean to guarantee.
I know, but you have 10 picks to mess around with, and you have an extra second next year.
Still interesting. The Bills, I still know, man. I feel like I've said this over and over again, but they win all in the last 2 years, and I think it's kind of hampering them from building a better roster for the
I
future.
still think like you're not going to be as hurt as you were last year.
No,
And they still
but
they still won their division, and they were like people are saying they're going to miss the playoffs, and they won their division, and they had a lot go wrong for them last year.
like if they're in NFC, I'd be way more on your side of this argument. But the AFC, I think, is just getting so much better at quarterback, so much better in general. I mean, the AFC is loaded, and these teams can take that next step. Like you say, Texans are
I know,
a
but
young
what
team.
does it
They can take that
matter
next
who
step,
the
though.
third best team to them is in the AFC South? Probably not.
I'm just saying it's gonna be tougher to win games. You're not going to be running over. Like it's gonna be tough to win games, in my opinion. In the AFC, it's gonna be tough to consistently. You're not gonna.
Well,
I
yeah,
don't think
but
you're
we
gonna
said
bulldoze
that
any
we
team
said
outside
this.
of.
We literally said this last year, and they still won their division. Like this, we were talking about how good the AFC was last year, and they still won the division.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a possibility. I think it's gonna be a tougher task this year. I don't think it's gonna be as easy. Like I still don't believe in
Like
the Dolphins.
last
I think
year,
the Jets.
we thought New England could be competitive. They were not. We
I
thought the
never said
Charge
that. I never said New England.
people thought the New
Yeah,
England
okay.
was
I
talked
didn't.
about
I
as
thought you meant
competitive.
we as in us
Okay,
too. Okay.
okay. Let me
Okay.
continue. The Chargers were thought to be something. They were not. Denver was like they could be something with Sean Payton. They were not. Cincy wasn't. Yeah, like we talked about it last year, and they still won the division. And it'll be the same conversation every year about how good the AFC is, and then it's gonna be like, oh, not everyone's as good as we thought, and that's in all sports.
Well, yeah, you never. Of course, like injuries and all that play a part in that. We never have
And
a
the
clear
Bills were
picture.
one of those injured teams, and they still won their division.
Yes,
That's
I mean,
I think that's an achievement, and they were just a mess. They were hurt and a mess, and they still
I
won the
get what you're
division.
saying, but if we're just gonna base everything off of that was the point I was making earlier. If we're gonna base everything off of good/bad breaks and here and there, then
Well, yeah, but and
that's not what your thought process should be
winning
of building a
your
team
division
and
when you
building a
had
winning culture.
a bunch of bad breaks shows something in your team. I'm not even saying they get good
Well,
breaks. I'm just saying they don't get a ton of bad breaks.
yeah, my point is I think it's just gonna be tough. I don't think it's as easy as you're saying it's gonna be just to retool and leave off right where you left off. I don't think it's every year's an empty slate, and I don't think it's gonna be like, oh, we made the playoffs last year and we went on a run. That's where we're gonna leave off, even though we lost a bunch of pieces. That's just my point. I just don't. I think you're
I
simplifying it way too much.
I still think they'll be fine. They'll replace Diggs. Mitch Morse was the only piece that was really a big deal. Can't tell me that old Jordan Pryor and
Yeah, I'm not saying it at all. I'm just saying when you like, even though those
True
players may not
Poyer.
be good on
I
the field,
called
they're
him
still
Pryor
locker room
Poyer.
guys.
Jeez.
They're still locker room guys,
Yeah.
still veterans.
And
That's
I
my
think
point. It's
this
like,
locker room is now transitioning to a Josh Allen. They have like AJ Espinosa, Ed Oliver, Gregor. Like this is now going to be a new locker room. Josh Allen, these younger guys. It's going to be their locker room now. You got James Cook is a little older. Khalil Shakir's a little older. So they've had these like younger guys who aren't superstars but still developing talents. And now they're all getting the ability to step up. And I think that's huge.
anything else you want to add? I know this was a pretty heated discussion today. I
Well, I had
promise you
to
guys that we're not always at each other's throats like this.
I
This
had
is
to
just
talk louder because my dang throat. I'm out of
I can tell
water.
I can tell your voice is a little raspy. Are
Yeah,
you
I had
still
to
dealing with that
talk
cold you had?
louder. Yeah,
No, I
I
know.
had to talk a
I
little
noticed that early
louder.
on. But yeah, today was kind of a heated episode, but I think we're on completely different sides of that conversation.
Yes.
I don't think we agree at all. But for next week, Luke, are we thinking mock draft? Or are we gonna wait till close to the draft? I mean, we're only 25 days or 22 days out.
Yeah,
3 weeks
22 days.
or 22. My bad. Yeah, 22. I mean, we're only
Could be a mock draft. I don't know.
because
The
now we have. I mean, now a lot of things are kind of taking shape now. I think there's because when we did our first two mock drafts, it's kind of we're just kind of going there blind. But now you've seen through free agency and trades, a lot of those needs and wants for teams' rosters have kind of already been filled. So I think next week could be an interesting episode for mock draft. I'd be curious what
NBA
what
playoffs
you
is
have.
going to be. Well, the regular season will still be going on a little bit.
Yeah.
You'll have March Madness will be over. And then it's just draft season and NBA playoffs, which I'm excited for.
All right. Well, I'm going to let Luke rest his voice a bit. It's a bit raspy. He had to yell at me today. So we're going to head out. We do apologize for being a little disputatious today, but definitely a topic that we absolutely disagree on. But until then, make sure to like our video, subscribe, follow our Spotify, and we'll be back next week with our next version of our mock drafts for 2024 NFL Draft.
Peace.